I showed up to my wife's military family day only to see everyone laughing and pointing. Deadweight husband is here. Then my wife, a second lieutenant, handed me an envelope. My first order as a lieutenant is our divorce, sign, and leave. So I walked away, quietly canceled every payment, party, trip, and pulled out my $20 million investment from her father's firm. Minutes later, my phone lit up with 456 missed calls, and someone showed up at my door. I still remember the weight of the envelope. Not the physical weight. It was paper, after all, maybe an ounce at most. But the psychological weight of it, the way it seemed to grow heavier in my hand with each passing second, like it was made of lead instead of cotton fiber. Like it contained the collected mass of every assumption I'd ever made about my life, my marriage, my worth. The envelope was cream-colored. Expensive paper. The kind you use for formal occasions, weddings, promotions, important announcements. There was a dark irony in that choice that I wouldn't fully appreciate until later. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me take you back to the beginning of that day. To the moment I woke up in her apartment on base. The morning sun filtering through the blinds in those distinctive parallel lines that always reminded me of prison bars. I didn't know it then, but that image would prove more prophetic than I could have imagined. It was Saturday, April 15th. I remember because it was tax day, and I'd spent the previous evening finishing our joint returns. Well, my returns. Sarah hadn't contributed to our household income in the 3 years we'd been married. Not that I'd ever complained. I'd always believed in supporting your partner's dreams, even when those dreams meant she was gone for months at a time, training, deploying, building a career that seemed to expand in direct proportion to the shrinking space I occupied in her life. The apartment smelled like coffee. I'd set the timer the night before, a small domestic gesture that felt important somehow. I'd learned early in our marriage that Sarah appreciated coming home to these little touches. Or at least, she used to. Lately, she barely seemed to notice. I showered, shaved, put on the outfit I'd carefully selected the week before. Khaki slacks, a navy blue button-down, brown leather shoes. Not too formal, not too casual. The kind of outfit that says, I'm proud to be here, proud to support you, but I know this isn't my show. I'd Googled what to wear to Military Family Day and spent an embarrassing amount of time reading through forum posts from other military spouses trying to navigate the same delicate social calculus. Looking back, I can see how pathetic that was. How much mental energy I was expending on trying to be acceptable, trying to be enough. Sarah was already gone when I emerged from the bedroom. She'd left early for setup. She was on the planning committee for the event, naturally. Second Lieutenant Sarah Chun, always the overachiever, always the one who volunteered for extra duty, extra responsibility, extra everything. It was one of the things I'd loved about her when we met. The note she'd left on the counter was brief. See you at 1400. Don't be late. Not, I love you. Not, looking forward to seeing you. Not even, thanks for coming. Just, don't be late. I should have known then. Should have read the warning signs written in that curt, impersonal tone. But I didn't. Or maybe I did, and I just refused to acknowledge what I was seeing. Hope is a powerful anesthetic. It numbs you to the pain that's coming, right up until the moment it arrives. I grabbed my keys, my wallet, my phone. I'd charged it fully the night before. Another small preparation, making sure I could take plenty of photos of Sarah at her event, capture her moment of triumph, be the supportive husband documenting his wife's success. The drive to the base took 40 minutes. I knew the route by heart now. I'd made it dozens of times over the past 3 years, for ceremonies, for deployments, for returns, for briefings where they explained to families what the next 6 months would look like while our soldiers were overseas. I'd sat through so many of those briefings, nodding along, asking appropriate questions, being the model military spouse. And I'd been proud, genuinely proud. Sarah was serving her country. She was doing something important, something that mattered. What was I doing? I worked from home, managing investments, handling portfolios, moving money around on spreadsheets. It wasn't heroic. It wasn't noble. It was just a job. At least, that's what I told myself. That's what Sarah had told me, in increasingly less subtle ways, over the past year. The guard at the gate checked my ID, my base pass, waved me through with a practiced efficiency that spoke to how routine this had all become. I found a parking spot in the visitor lot, not too close to the main event area. I didn't want to seem presumptuous, and sat in my car for a moment, watching other families stream toward the field where the celebration was being held. They looked happy, excited. There were kids running ahead of their parents, balloons bobbing in the spring breeze, the distant sound of a brass band warming up. It was supposed to be a celebration. Military Family Day was designed to honor not just the service members, but the families who supported them, who held down the fort at home, who made sacrifices of their own. I felt a flutter of something in my chest. Not quite hope, not quite dread. Something in between. The feeling you get when you're waiting for test results that could go either way. I got out of the car, locked it, walked toward the sound of celebration. That's when I first noticed them. The stairs. At first, I thought I was imagining it. But no, there were definitely people looking at me, pointing, whispering to each other behind raised hands. A cluster of women in military dress uniforms, probably Sarah's colleagues, their eyes tracking me as I approached. A group of older men. Senior officers, judging by their insignia, pausing mid-conversation to watch me pass. And then I heard it. Deadweight husband is here. The voice wasn't trying to whisper. It was meant to be heard, meant to land. And it did, with the force of a physical blow. I stopped walking, turned, tried to locate the source. A young lieutenant, male, early 20s, the kind of fresh-faced confidence that comes from recent graduation and a shiny new rank, was smirking at me. His friends, a whole group of them, maybe 8 or 10 junior officers, were laughing. Not discreet chuckles, but full-throated laughter. Deadweight. Another voice picked up the refrain. Bet he's here for the free food. More laughter. Louder now. I felt my face flush. Felt the heat crawl up my neck, settle in my ears. Fight or flight kicked in. My heart rate spiked. My palms went clammy. My breathing went shallow. Every instinct screamed at me to either confront them or run. I did neither. I kept walking. Head up. Eyes forward. The way you do when you're pretending you didn't hear something. When you're refusing to give them the satisfaction of a reaction. But they saw. They knew I'd heard. And the laughter followed me. I made it to the main field where the ceremony was being held. There were rows of folding chairs set up, a raised platform with a podium, American flags flanking both sides. Maybe 300 people were gathered, service members, families, local dignitaries. The brass band was playing now, some patriotic march I half recognized. I scanned the crowd for Sarah. Found her near the front, standing with a group of other newly commissioned officers. She was wearing her dress uniform, the formal one she'd spent a small fortune getting tailored to perfection. She looked sharp, professional, every inch the officer. I started toward her, weaving through the crowd, trying to catch her eye. She saw me, and turned away, deliberately, consciously. She looked directly at me. Our eyes met for a fraction of a second, and then she pivoted back to her conversation as if I wasn't there. I stopped again, standing in the middle of the crowd, suddenly very aware of how alone I was. Everyone else seemed to be in clusters, families, groups, units. I was singular, isolated, deadweight. The ceremony began. I found an empty chair near the back and sat down, trying to make myself small, trying to disappear. A colonel took the podium and began speaking about service, sacrifice, the proud tradition of military families. He talked about how no soldier serves alone, how behind every uniform is a network of support, how families are the backbone of military readiness. I wondered if he could see the irony. If anyone could. The ceremony lasted an hour. Various awards were given out, promotions were recognized, speeches were made. Sarah's name was called. She'd received some kind of commendation for leadership during a recent training exercise. She walked up to the platform, received her certificate, shook hands with the colonel. Everyone applauded. I applauded too. Loudly, proudly. She didn't look at me. Not once. When it was over, people began mingling. There were refreshment tables set up. I'd been right about the free food, apparently, and the brass band had transitioned to more casual music. It was meant to be social time, a chance for families to celebrate together. I approached Sarah's group again. She was surrounded by her fellow officers, all of them talking animatedly, reliving moments from their training, making inside jokes I wasn't part of. Sarah, I said, when I finally managed to wedge myself into the circle. Congratulations. That commendation was. Not now, James. Her voice was flat, cold, the way you'd speak to a telemarketer. I just wanted to. I said not now. The other officers were watching. Some looked uncomfortable. Others looked amused. Like this was entertainment. Okay, I said quietly. I'll be over there. I gestured vaguely toward the refreshment area. Sarah had already turned back to her conversation. I walked away. Again. Seemed to be doing a lot of that today. The refreshment table had the standard fare, cookies, coffee, lemonade, the kind of snacks you expect at any public event. I poured myself a coffee I didn't want, just to have something to do with my hands, and stood off to the side, watching. You must be James. I turned. A woman in her 50s, wearing a civilian dress but with the bearing of someone who'd spent time in uniform, was smiling at me. But it wasn't a friendly smile. It was the kind of smile a shark gives just before it bites. I said carefully. I'm Colonel Patterson. I command Sarah's battalion. She paused, took a sip of her own coffee. She's told us a lot about you. The way she said it, the emphasis on a lot, made it clear that whatever Sarah had shared, it wasn't flattering. Has she? I kept my voice neutral. It must be difficult, being married to such an accomplished officer. Trying to find your own place in her shadow. There it was. The knife slid between the ribs with surgical precision. I'm proud of Sarah, I said. I've always supported her career. Of course you have. Another smile. Well, I'll let you get back to your coffee. Good to finally put a face to the name. She walked away, leaving me standing there with the distinct feeling that I'd just been evaluated and found wanting. More people filtered past. More stares. More whispers. I caught fragments of conversations. Can't believe she brought him. Heard he doesn't even work. Probably just after her benefits. Each comment was another small cut. Paper cuts don't seem like much individually, but enough of them and you'll bleed out all the same. I checked my phone. 3:47 p.m. The ceremony had started at 2 o'clock. Surely this would be over soon. Surely I could leave, go home, escape this nightmare. James Chun, a lieutenant I didn't recognize, was standing in front of me. Young, confident, holding something in his hands. An envelope. Lieutenant Chen asked me to give this to you. He thrust it toward me. She said it's urgent. I took it. The cream-colored paper felt expensive in my hands. Thanks, I managed. The lieutenant nodded and left. Quickly, like he didn't want to be associated with me longer than necessary. I stared at the envelope. It wasn't sealed. The flap was just tucked in. Around me, the celebration continued. Music played. People laughed. The spring breeze carried the smell of fresh-cut grass and coffee. I opened the envelope. Inside were 3 pieces of paper. The first was a handwritten note on Sarah's personal stationery. My first order as a second lieutenant is our divorce. Sign and leave. The second and third pages were divorce papers. Already filled out. Already signed by Sarah. Just waiting for my signature to make it official. I read the note again. Once. Twice. 3 times. My first order as a second lieutenant is our divorce. Not, I want a divorce. Not, we need to talk. Not even, this isn't working. An order. Like I was one of her subordinates. Like our marriage was a military operation to be concluded. Like I was something to be dismissed. Sign and leave. I looked up. Across the field, Sarah was watching me. She'd been waiting for this moment, I realized. Waiting to see my reaction. Waiting for me to break down. To make a scene. To give everyone here more ammunition for their gossip. Our eyes met again. And I saw it there, in her face. Not regret. Not sadness. Not even anger. Satisfaction. She was pleased. Proud, even. This was her moment of triumph. Not the commendation, not the promotion. This. The public disposal of her deadweight husband. Something happened in that moment. Something shifted inside me, like a tectonic plate suddenly moving after years of pressure. A lifetime of trying to be good enough, to be supportive enough, to shrink myself down to fit into the space Sarah had allocated for me. All of it crystallized into a single, clear realization. I was done. Not angry. Not yet. That would come later. But done. Finished. Released from the burden of pretending this was something it wasn't. I folded the papers carefully, put them back in the envelope, tucked the envelope under my arm, and then I walked away. Not rushed. Not running. Just walking. Calmly. Deliberately. Each step measured and certain. Behind me, I heard someone say, "That was cold." Someone else responded, "He needed to hear it." More laughter. I kept walking. past the refreshment tables, past the folding chairs, past the clusters of families celebrating their service members, past the gate guards who didn't look at me twice. To my car. I got in, closed the door, sat in the driver's seat with my hands on the steering wheel, staring at nothing. Then I started the engine and drove away. It wasn't until I was 10 miles from the base, stopped at a red light, that I realized I was shaking. My whole body was trembling like I'd been dunked in ice water. Adrenaline crash, probably. The body's response to trauma. Because that's what it was. Trauma. A wound. The light turned green. I drove. I didn't go home. To her apartment, I should say. It had never really been home. Home is where you're wanted. Where you belong. That place had just been a storage unit for my belongings, a mailing address, a convenient fiction. Instead, I drove to a coffee shop I liked on the other side of town. A quiet place where I'd sometimes go to work when I needed to think. The kind of place with mismatched furniture and local art on the walls and baristas who didn't make conversation unless you initiated it. I ordered a coffee, found a corner table, pulled out my laptop, and then I started making phone calls. The first call was to Marcus Webb, my attorney. We'd gone to college together, stayed friends, occasionally grabbed drinks when our schedules aligned. He specialized in family law, ironically enough. James. His voice was warm when he picked up. It's been too long, man. How are you? How's Sarah? I need a divorce lawyer, I said. Can you recommend someone? A pause. Shit. James, I'm sorry. I didn't. When did this? Today? Just now. Can you recommend someone? I can do better than that. I can take your case. When can you come in? Tomorrow morning? I'll make time. Come to my office at 9. And James? Don't sign anything until we talk. Understand. Understood. I hung up, opened my laptop, logged into my banking portal. Here's something most people didn't know about me. I was good at my job. Very good. I managed investment portfolios for several high-net-worth clients, had a talent for identifying undervalued assets, knew how to read market trends. I'd built a solid career, made good money, maintained a low profile. I'd done all of this while being the supportive spouse, while managing our household, while handling every domestic responsibility so Sarah could focus on her career. I told myself I was being a good partner. Really, I'd been making myself invisible. But invisible doesn't mean powerless. I pulled up my accounts. Our accounts. The joint checking account where my paycheck was deposited every 2 weeks. The joint savings account where I'd been diligently setting aside money for our future. A house, maybe, or kids eventually, or whatever we decided together. Except we didn't decide together. Not anymore. Maybe not ever. I initiated transfers. Moved my money out of the joint accounts, back into my personal accounts. The ones I'd maintained separately, thank God, despite Sarah's occasional comments about how married people should share everything. It took 15 minutes to undo 3 years of financial entanglement. Next, I opened my email. Found the folder labeled Chun Family Investments. Thomas Chun, Sarah's father. Real estate mogul, self-made millionaire, the kind of man who'd pulled himself up from nothing and never let anyone forget it. He'd built his fortune in commercial real estate development, shopping centers, office buildings, mixed-use developments. Smart investments, most of them. Good instincts. But instincts only get you so far. Eventually, you need capital. And about 2 years ago, Thomas had needed a lot of capital for a major project in downtown Seattle. A mixed-use development that would revitalize an entire neighborhood, bring in millions in revenue, cement his legacy as more than just another developer. He'd needed investors. Big investors. The kind with deep pockets and faith in long-term returns. I'd introduced him to several of my clients. And then, when those weren't enough, I'd invested myself. $20 million. Every penny I'd saved, every dollar I'd earned, every successful trade I'd made. All of it poured into Thomas Chen's vision. He'd been grateful, effusive even, called me son, told Sarah she'd married a brilliant man, promised that this investment would pay off beyond our wildest dreams. Sarah had smiled at that, proud of me for once, or maybe just proud that her husband could be useful to her father. I pulled up the investment agreement, read through the terms, found the clause I was looking for, the one that allowed investors to withdraw under certain circumstances with 60 days notice. I began drafting an email. Dear Thomas, due to personal circumstances, I need to initiate withdrawal of my investment in the Harbor View Development Project. Per the terms of our agreement, please consider this my formal notice. I expect full return of my principal investment within the 60-day window stipulated in our contract. Best regards, James Chun. My finger hovered over the send button. $20 million. It was the anchor investment, the one that had unlocked loans from the bank, that had brought in other investors. Pull it out, and the entire project would likely collapse. Thomas would be ruined. His legacy project would die before it was born. Sarah would be furious. I clicked send. Next, subscriptions and services. I went through our shared accounts methodically, canceling everything I'd been paying for. Her gym membership. $200 a month for the fancy military spouse gym with the spa services. Her subscription boxes. Another $150 a month for curated beauty products. Her streaming services, her magazine subscriptions, her meal kit delivery. All of it went. Click, click, click. Canceled, canceled, canceled. Then I got to the bigger items. The ones that would really matter. Sarah's parents' 40th wedding anniversary party. 2 months away. I'd been planning it for 6 months. Had put down deposits on a venue, a caterer, a band, photographers. Total cost, $85,000. All of it coming from my accounts, because I'd wanted to do something nice for my in-laws, wanted to show I could contribute, wanted to prove I wasn't just deadweight. I called the venue. Hi. Yes, I need to cancel an event. Chun anniversary party, June 17th. Oh, that's one of our biggest bookings. Are you sure? The cancellation fee is. I'm sure. Go ahead and process it. But sir, you'll forfeit the entire deposit. I understand. Cancel it. I hung up. Called the caterer, the band, the photographers. Canceled everything. Each cancellation felt like removing a weight from my shoulders. Like I was excavating myself from beneath an avalanche, one shovel of snow at a time. The family trip to Hawaii. Sarah had wanted to do a big family vacation. Her parents, her brother, and his family, us. Show everyone how successful we were, how well we were doing. I'd booked a resort, paid for flights for everyone, arranged activities. Total cost, $47,000. Canceled. The new car I'd been planning to buy Sarah for her promotion. A Tesla Model S, her dream car. I'd put down a deposit, worked with the dealer, planned to surprise her next month. Canceled. By the time I was finished, I'd unwound every financial commitment I'd made that benefited Sarah or her family. Every payment, every subscription, every plan. All of it gone. My phone was still silent. No calls from Sarah. No messages. Nothing. It was 6:47 p.m. The ceremony had ended hours ago. She hadn't even texted to check if I'd gotten home safely. I closed my laptop. Finished my coffee, which had gone cold. Stared at the wall. A barista approached cautiously. Hey, we're closing in 15 minutes. Just wanted to let you know. Thanks, I said. I'm leaving. I drove to a hotel. A nice one, downtown. The kind with a concierge and room service and thick carpets that absorbed sound. I checked in, went to my room, ordered food I barely touched. Then I sat on the edge of the bed and finally, let myself feel it. The humiliation, the anger, the grief. All of it came crashing down at once, a wave that knocked me flat. I didn't cry. I wanted to, but couldn't. The emotions were too big for tears, too complex for simple sadness. Instead, I sat there in the dark hotel room, listening to the city sounds filtering through the window, and let myself acknowledge what I'd been denying for months. My marriage was over. Had been over for a long time, probably. I'd just been too afraid to admit it. Sarah didn't love me anymore. Maybe never had. Maybe I'd just been convenient, a steady paycheck, a supportive presence, someone to handle the boring domestic details while she built her career. Deadweight. Maybe they were right. My phone buzzed. Finally, a message. I looked at the screen, expecting Sarah. It was my bank. An automated alert. Large transaction detected. $20 million withdrawal initiated from Chun Harbor View Investment Fund. Contact us if this was not authorized. I authorized it. Then I turned off my phone and went to bed. I woke up to violence. Not physical violence. No one was attacking me. The hotel room was secure. The city beyond my window was going about its Sunday morning business with the usual urban indifference. But when I turned on my phone, The digital violence that erupted was immediate and overwhelming. 456 missed calls. The number seemed absurd. Impossible. I stared at it for a solid 30 seconds, convinced my phone had malfunctioned, that some glitch in the system had multiplied the actual number by some factor. But no. Scrolling through the call log confirmed it. 456 calls, from 11:47 p.m. last night until 7:23 this morning. Sarah, 89 calls. Thomas, Sarah's father, 127 calls. Michelle, Sarah's mother, 34 calls. David, Sarah's brother, 18 calls. Unknown numbers, 188 calls. And the voicemails, 73 voicemails. The inbox was full, had been full for hours, was now just rejecting new messages. I didn't listen to them. Not yet. First, I needed to understand what had happened while I slept. I opened my email. 347 unread messages. Most from Thomas, with subject lines that escalated from polite concern to panic to rage. James, call me please. Urgent, need to discuss your email. This can't be serious. Call me immediately. You're destroying everything. I will sue you for everything you have. There were emails from the bank, from Thomas's lawyers, from the project's other investors. From Sarah, though hers were surprisingly few. Just 3 messages, each one shorter and colder than the last. What the fuck did you do? Call me now? You're going to regret this. I set the phone down, took a breath. The hotel room suddenly felt very small, the walls pressing in. This was real. This was happening. Whatever I'd set in motion yesterday was now fully in motion, gathering speed, careening towards some conclusion I couldn't yet see. Good. I ordered room service, coffee, eggs, toast, and while I waited, I finally listened to the voicemails. Chronologically, so I could watch the story unfold. The first was from Thomas, timestamped 11:47 p.m. His voice was controlled, measured, but I could hear the tension underneath. James, it's Thomas. I got your email. I'm confused. Very confused. This isn't like you. Can you call me back? We should talk about this. I'm sure whatever's bothering you, we can work it out. Call me, please. The second, 11:52 p.m. James, it's me again. Look, I understand you and Sarah might be having problems. Marriage is hard, especially with military life. But let's not make rash decisions that affect everyone, okay? This project, there are a lot of people counting on it. A lot of families. Please call me back. The third, from Sarah, 12:03 a.m. James, what the actual fuck? My dad is losing his mind. Did you really pull out of his project? Are you seriously that petty? Call me. Now. Thomas again, 12:15 a.m., his voice starting to crack. James, I need you to listen to me. If you withdraw that investment, the bank will call the loans. The whole project will collapse. 20 years of work, James. 20 years of building toward this. I'm begging you. Whatever Sarah did, whatever happened between you two, don't punish all these other people. Don't punish me. Sarah, 12:34 a.m., her voice sharp with fury. You coward. You absolute fucking coward. You don't get to do this. You don't get to fuck over my entire family because your feelings got hurt. Grow up. Sign the papers, undo this bullshit, and grow the fuck up. Michelle Chun, 1:07 a.m., crying. James, sweetie, please call us back. Tom is having a panic attack. He's talking about losing everything. I don't understand what happened. You were always such a good son-in-law. Please call us back. And on and on. The messages grew more desperate, more angry, more incoherent. Thomas threatening legal action. Sarah calling me every name in the book. David, Sarah's brother, trying to play mediator, suggesting we all calm down and talk like adults. Unknown numbers, investors, I assumed, or maybe Thomas's business partners, demanding to know what was happening, threatening their own legal action. By 4 a.m., Thomas's messages had devolved into incoherent rage. You're nobody. You hear me? Nobody. I made you. I brought you into this family. And this is how you repay me? You're finished in this city. I'll make sure of it. You'll never work in investment management again. The message cut off, exceeded the time limit. The last voicemail was from Sarah, left at 7:23 a.m. James. Her voice was different now. Flat. Empty. Defeated. My dad had a heart attack. He's in the hospital. I hope you're fucking happy. I set the phone down again. Closed my eyes. A heart attack. I felt what? Guilt? Satisfaction? Concern? Honestly, I wasn't sure. The emotions were too tangled, too contradictory. Part of me, the part that had spent 3 years trying to be a good son-in-law, that had liked Thomas despite everything, felt terrible. A heart attack. That was serious. Potentially fatal. But another part of me, the part that was still hearing deadweight husband echoing in my ears, still seeing Sarah's satisfied smile as she handed me those divorce papers, felt nothing. Or worse than nothing. Felt a cold, clinical satisfaction that actions had consequences, that humiliation could flow both ways. I was still sitting there, trying to parse my own emotions, when someone knocked on my door. Not the tentative knock of housekeeping. A firm, insistent pounding. James Chun. Open this door. Sarah's voice. Unmistakable. I looked at the door. It had a deadbolt, a chain lock, a privacy lock. All engaged. She couldn't get in. I know you're in there. Open the fucking door. More pounding. Aggressive enough that I worried the hotel would call security. James. James. I walked to the door. Stood there for a moment, looking through the peephole. Sarah was alone. Still in civilian clothes. Jeans, a t-shirt. Her hair pulled back in a messy ponytail. She looked exhausted. Wrecked. Her eyes were red, her face blotchy. Good. A cold voice in my head said. Now she knows how it feels. I'm calling the police if you don't leave, I said through the door. You son of a bitch. She pounded again. You put my father in the hospital. Your father's business decisions put him in the hospital, I said. Calmly. I just withdrew my investment. That's my right. You're right? You're right? You're destroying my family. Interesting choice of words. Family. Tell me, Sarah, was I family yesterday? When you handed me divorce papers in front of everyone. When your colleagues were calling me deadweight. Was I family then? Silence. Then. That's what this is about. You got your feelings hurt, so you decided to. Got my feelings hurt. I repeated the words slowly. You ended our marriage with a written order. In public. At an event where you'd already made sure everyone thought I was worthless. And you think this is about my feelings being hurt. You're being dramatic. No. I'm being done. There's a difference. More silence. Then, quieter. James. Please. My dad could die. Whatever you think of me, he doesn't deserve this. You're right, I said. He doesn't. But I'm not the one who put him in the hospital. His own stress did that. His own decisions. His own choices about how to structure his business. You can fix this. Just restore the investment. We can work something out with the divorce. We can. No. 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 I'm not negotiating with you. I'm not fixing anything. I'm done being the solution to your family's problems. You're being cruel. I almost laughed. I'm being cruel? Sarah, do you have any idea how insane that sounds right now? My father is in the hospital, and I'm sorry about that. Genuinely. I hope he recovers. But it doesn't change anything. You bastard. You absolute bastard. Probably. But I'm a bastard who's been set free. You gave me that, remember? Your first order as a second lieutenant. I heard her breathing on the other side of the door. Hard, angry breaths. This isn't over, she finally said. Yes, it is. Go home, Sarah. Or go to the hospital. Either way, leave me alone. My lawyers. We'll talk to my lawyers. That's how this works now. We don't talk directly. We have representation. We do this properly. Legally. You're going to regret this. Maybe. But not today. I heard her footsteps retreating. Fast, angry strides. Then the elevator dinging, doors opening, closing. She was gone. I went back to the window. Looked down at the street below. Watched Sarah emerge from the hotel entrance, get into a car. Her mother was driving, I noticed, and speed away. My phone rang again. Thomas's number. I didn't answer. It rang again. Sarah. Again. David. Again. I turned the phone off. Completely off, not just silenced. Then I sat down with my room service breakfast, which had arrived at some point during Sarah's visit, and ate methodically. The eggs were good. The coffee was better. The toast was exactly the right amount of crispy. Small pleasures. Sometimes that's all you have. Marcus Webb's office was in a restored brownstone in the historic district, the kind of place that radiated competent respectability. Leather chairs, law books on shelves, framed diplomas from Yale Law, photographs of Marcus with various clients and colleagues. Success, tastefully displayed. Marcus himself was in his late 30s, black, impeccably dressed in a suit that probably cost more than my monthly rent. We'd been roommates freshman year, stayed friends through the chaos of college, maintained contact after graduation even as our lives diverged. Jesus Christ, James. He was reading through the documents I'd brought. The divorce papers Sarah had given me, the investment withdrawal notice, printouts of some of the voicemails and emails. This is a lot. That's one word for it. How are you holding up? I shrugged. I'm here. I'm functional. That's about all I can manage right now. Fair enough. He set the papers down. Okay, let's break this down. First, the divorce. These papers are amateur hour. She clearly had someone draft them quickly, probably a legal assistance attorney on base. They're not terrible, but they're not good either. We can do better. Define better. Well, for starters, she's asking for spousal support. Given that she's a second lieutenant with a guaranteed income and benefits, and you have a well-established career with significantly more earning potential, that's laughable. If anything, you'd have a stronger claim for support from her. I don't want her money. I know, but we can use the threat of it as leverage. Second issue. She's asking for half of all marital assets. That's standard, but we need to carefully document what's marital and what's separate. When did you get married? 3 years ago. June. And your investment career predates that? By 10 years. I've been managing portfolios since I was 25. Good. So we can argue that any assets you accumulated before the marriage, or any income from investments you made before the marriage, are separate property. That includes your investment accounts, your portfolio management income, potentially even the returns on those investments if we can show they were entirely separate from the marriage. What about the $20 million I pulled from her father's project? Marcus winced. Yeah, we should talk about that. That's going to be complicated. How so? Well, when did you make that investment? 2 years ago, during the marriage. So technically, it could be considered marital property, which means Sarah might have a claim to half of it, or at least half of any returns. But it's my money. I earned it. Doesn't matter. Anything acquired during the marriage is presumed to be marital property in this state, unless you can prove it came from a separate source. Did you have a prenup? I shook my head. Shit. Okay, that's not ideal, but we can work with it. We'll argue that the investment was made entirely with your separate funds, that Sarah contributed nothing to it, that she has no equity stake. But James, I have to ask, why did you pull it? What were you thinking? I told him. Everything. The ceremony. The humiliation. The envelope. The order to sign and leave. When I finished, Marcus was quiet for a long moment. She ordered you to sign divorce papers? He finally said. Like a military command? Her first order as a second lieutenant, yes. Jesus, that's some cold shit. It gets better. Apparently, the whole base knew. They were calling me deadweight husband before I even arrived. Marcus's jaw tightened. She set you up. This was planned. She wanted an audience for your humiliation. That's what it felt like. Okay, here's what we're going to do. We're going to hit back. Hard. We're going to file a counter-petition that makes it very clear you're not just rolling over. We'll ask for everything we're entitled to, we'll document every instance of her misconduct, and we'll make sure the military knows exactly what kind of officer they've commissioned. What do you mean? James, the military takes marital conduct seriously. Adultery is still technically a crime under the UCMJ. Public humiliation of a spouse, conducting personal business during official events. These are issues that could affect her career. I don't want to ruin her career. Why not? She tried to ruin your life. Because I'm better than that. Marcus studied me for a moment. Are you? Or are you still trying to be the nice guy, the accommodating spouse, the one who takes the high road even when it costs him everything? The question landed like a punch. I don't know, I admitted. Maybe both. Well, you need to figure it out. Because nice guys don't win divorces, James. People who are willing to fight win divorces. People who document everything, who build their case, who don't flinch when things get ugly. Those are the people who come out okay. I pulled $20 million from her father's project and maybe gave him a heart attack. I think I'm past the nice guy stage. Are you? Because from where I'm sitting, you're still worried about being fair. Still worried about what people will think. Still trying to be the bigger person. He leaned forward. Let me tell you something. Divorce is war. Not a polite disagreement. Not a business transaction. War. And in war, You use every weapon you have. That sounds exhausting. It is. But you know what's more exhausting? Spending the rest of your life knowing you rolled over, knowing you let someone treat you like garbage and then took it with a smile. Is that who you want to be? I thought about Sarah's face when she handed me the envelope. Thought about the laughter following me across that field. Thought about 3 years of making myself smaller, quieter, less. No, I said, that's not who I want to be. Good. Then we fight. We spent the next 2 hours going through everything. Marcus documented my statement about the events at the ceremony, took notes on Sarah's behavior over the past year, outlined a strategy for the divorce proceedings. He was thorough, professional, and absolutely ruthless in a way that should have bothered me, but didn't. One more thing, he said as we were wrapping up. The investment withdrawal. Thomas Chun is going to sue you. On what grounds? Breach of contract, tortious interference, probably emotional distress given the heart attack. He'll throw everything at the wall and see what sticks. But the contract allows withdrawal with 60 days notice. It does. But he'll argue you did it in bad faith, that you knew it would destroy the project, that your timing was deliberately malicious. He'll try to show that you violated some implied covenant of good faith and fair dealing. Will that work? Probably not. The contract is clear. You have the right to withdraw. But it'll be expensive and time-consuming to defend, which is exactly what he's counting on. He wants to make this hurt. Let him try. That's the spirit. I'll draft a response to any legal action he initiates. In the meantime, don't talk to him. Don't talk to Sarah. Don't talk to any of them. Everything goes through me. Understood. Understood. Good. He stood, extended his hand. We've got this, James. Trust me. I shook his hand. His grip was firm, confident. I wished I felt the same. The next week was a blur of logistics and loneliness. I found an apartment. Nothing fancy, a one-bedroom in a decent building, furnished, month-to-month lease. The kind of place someone would live temporarily, in transition between one life and another. Which was accurate. I went back to Sarah's apartment once, with Marcus and a police escort, to collect my belongings. Sarah wasn't there, smart, probably, given how volatile things had become. Everything I owned fit into my car in 2 trips. Clothes, laptop, some books, a few personal items. It was disturbing how little I'd accumulated in 3 years of marriage, how easily I could be extracted from her life. Like I'd never really been there at all. My phone continued to explode. Messages from the Chen family, from their lawyers, from people I barely knew who'd somehow gotten my number. Most of them I ignored. Some I forwarded to Marcus. The only call I answered was from my mother. James, sweetie, what's happening? Michelle Chen called me, crying, saying you've ruined their lives. That can't be true. Can it? My mother, Eleanor, professor of English literature, perpetual optimist, believer in the fundamental goodness of people. We'd always been close, though I hadn't told her much about the problems in my marriage. Hadn't wanted to worry her. Hadn't wanted to admit failure. It's complicated, Mom. Then uncomplicate it for me. So I did. Told her everything. The ceremony, the humiliation, the divorce papers, the investment withdrawal. All of it. When I finished, there was a long silence on the other end. James, she finally said, her voice tight with controlled fury. Why didn't you tell me Sarah was treating you this way? Because I thought I could fix it. Thought if I was just more supportive, more understanding, more patient, more invisible. The accuracy of that hit hard. Yeah, more invisible. Oh, my sweet boy. That's not love. That's erasure. I felt my throat tighten. I know that now. Good. And the Chens? Michelle calling me, trying to guilt me into talking sense into you. She's trying to protect her family. By sacrificing mine. No, absolutely not. You listened to me, James. You did the right thing. You stood up for yourself. You refused to be treated like you don't matter. I'm proud of you. Even though I maybe gave someone a heart attack, Thomas Chen's health issues are his own responsibility. He chose to structure his business in a way that made it vulnerable to a single investor's withdrawal. That's poor business practice, not your fault. His daughter is my wife. His daughter humiliated you publicly and handed you divorce papers like a military order. She made her choice. You made yours. Hearing it said so plainly, so matter-of-factly, was somehow both validating and devastating. I don't know what I'm doing, Mom. Yes, you do. You're surviving. You're protecting yourself. You're refusing to be erased. That's exactly what you should be doing. We talked for another hour. She told me about her semester, her students, the garden she was planning for spring. Normal things. Human things. Things that reminded me there was a world beyond this nightmare. That life would eventually return to some semblance of routine. When we hung up, I felt fractionally better. Still broken, but not quite as shattered. 10 days after the ceremony, Marcus called. Thomas Chin filed suit. Expected. Yeah, but you need to see what he's claiming. I'm sending you the complaint now. I opened my email. Downloaded the PDF. Read. Thomas was suing for $47 million. $20 million for the withdrawn investment, plus an additional $27 million in damages for lost profits, emotional distress, and reputational harm. $47 million, I said aloud. That's ambitious. It's bullshit, Marcus said. But it's bullshit we need to take seriously. He's also filed for an emergency injunction to freeze your assets, claiming you're a flight risk. A flight risk? He's arguing that you have significant liquid assets and no reason to stay in the area given the divorce. That you might liquidate everything and disappear. That's insane. It is. But we need to oppose it anyway. There's a hearing tomorrow at 2 o'clock. Can you make it? I'll be there. The hearing was in downtown Seattle, in a courtroom that smelled like old wood and older decisions. Thomas was there with his attorney, a sharp-looking woman in her 50s who radiated expensive competence. Sarah was there too, sitting behind her father, avoiding my eyes. Thomas looked terrible, gray, diminished, older than his 63 years. The heart attack had clearly taken a toll. Part of me felt guilty seeing him like that. Most of me felt nothing. The judge was a middle-aged man who looked like he'd rather be anywhere else. He read through Thomas's motion with visible skepticism. Mr. Patterson, he said to Thomas's attorney, your client is asking me to freeze the assets of someone who, by your own admission, has deep ties to this community, a thriving business, and no criminal record. On what grounds? Your Honor, Mr. Chun made a substantial investment in our client's project, which he had a contractual right to withdraw. Yes, but the timing and manner of the withdrawal suggest. Suggest what? That he exercised his legal rights at an inconvenient time for your client? That's not grounds for an asset freeze, Ms. Patterson. That's business. Thomas's attorney tried again. Your Honor, there are substantial questions about Mr. Chin's motives. I'm sure there are, and those can be addressed during the main proceedings. But I'm not freezing someone's assets based on speculation and hurt feelings. He looked at Marcus. Mr. Webb, I assume you oppose this motion? Vigorously, Your Honor. I thought you might. Motion denied. Anything else? Your Honor, Thomas's attorney said, her voice rising slightly. My client is facing financial ruin because his business plan was vulnerable to a single investor's withdrawal. That's a risk he assumed when he structured the deal that way. Not Mr. Chin's problem. The judge gathered his papers. We're done here. And just like that, it was over. Thomas slumped in his chair. Sarah put a hand on his shoulder. Their attorney looked like she wanted to argue further, but knew better. We walked out of the courthouse into pale afternoon sunlight. That went well, Marcus said. Thomas looked destroyed. Good. Marcus. No. He turned to face me. Don't do that. Don't start feeling sorry for him. He made his choices. He backed his daughter while she humiliated you. He benefited from your investment when it was convenient. Now it's not convenient anymore. That's life. You're very good at this, I observed. At what? Being ruthless. He smiled. It's my job. Now come on, let's get lunch. You're buying. The divorce proceeded with the kind of bureaucratic slowness that makes you understand why people in prison track time by marking walls. Days became weeks. Spring turned to early summer. The cherry blossoms I'd admired on my drive to the ceremony had long since fallen, replaced by the deep green of Seattle in full bloom. I fell into a routine. Work from my new apartment. Conference calls with clients. Market analysis. Portfolio adjustments. The same work I'd always done, but now without the pretense of being the supportive spouse working from home so his wife could chase her dreams. Some clients left. Word got around. Divorce, lawsuit, drama. Some people don't like their investment manager coming with baggage. I understood. No hard feelings. Other clients stayed. Some even increased their portfolios with me, saying they respected how I'd handled myself. Stood up for yourself, one told me. I like that in a financial advisor. The lawsuit ground forward. Discovery, depositions, motions. Thomas's attorneys tried every angle. Breach of contract, breach of fiduciary duty, intentional infliction of emotional distress. Marcus batted them all away with the same argument. The contract allowed withdrawal. James withdrew. End of story. He's going to lose. Marcus told me over coffee in his office. He knows he's going to lose. This is about punishment now, not justice. How much longer? Months, probably. Could go to trial, could settle. Depends on whether Thomas wants to cut his losses or keep bleeding money on attorney fees. And the divorce? That's moving faster. Sarah's attorney is actually being reasonable, which surprises me. They've dropped the spousal support request, agreed to a clean split of marital assets. We're basically just arguing over what counts as marital at this point. That's good. That's very good. Means we could have this wrapped up in a couple months. 2 months to end 3 years. It seemed both too long and not long enough. 6 weeks after the ceremony, I got an unexpected visitor. I was working from my apartment. A video call with a client in Tokyo had just ended. Time zones being what they were meant, I was taking meetings at odd hours when the intercom buzzed. Mr. Chun, there's someone here to see you. Says his name is David Chun, Sarah's brother. We'd never been particularly close. He was younger, still in graduate school, studying something involving renewable energy, but he'd always been friendly enough. Certainly more tolerable than the rest of the Chun family. Send him up. David arrived looking nervous, carrying 2 coffee cups from a local shop. Hey, James. I brought a peace offering. He held out one of the cups. Americano, right? 2 shots. You remembered. I remember a lot of things. He sat down without being invited, which was presumptuous but somehow not offensive. David had that quality, able to be pushy without being annoying. We need to talk. If you're here to convince me to restore the investment. I'm not. Dad's fucked. I know that. He knows that. The project is dead, the investors are gone, his reputation is in tatters. I'm not here about that. Then why are you here? David took a long sip of his coffee, gathered his thoughts. I'm here because my sister is a terrible person, and you deserve to know the whole truth. I set my own coffee down. I'm listening. Sarah's been cheating on you. For about a year. The words hung in the air like smoke. With who? One of her fellow officers. Captain somebody. I don't remember his name. Young guy, all muscles and confidence. She met him during training at Fort Lewis. How do you know this? Because she told me. Bragged about it, actually. Said he was what a real man looks like. Said you were a nice enough guy, but you didn't understand the military lifestyle. Said she was staying with you for financial stability until she could establish her career. I felt something cold settle in my chest. Not surprise. Part of me had suspected something like this, but confirmation still hurt. Why are you telling me this now? Because she's going to use it against you. How? She's planning to claim you withdrew the investment out of revenge for her affair. That you were vindictive and controlling. She's going to paint herself as the victim. The devoted soldier with an abusive spouse who tried to destroy her family when she stood up for herself. That's insane. That's Sarah. David took another sip. Look, I love my sister. She's family. But I'm not blind. She's always been like this. Calculating, cold, willing to rewrite history to make herself look good. Dad and Mom enable it because she's the golden child, the success story. I'm just the kid who went into green energy instead of military service or business. This still doesn't explain why you're here. Because you don't deserve what she's doing to you. And because I'm tired of watching my family destroy people. He reached into his bag, pulled out a folder. These are printouts of text messages between Sarah and her boyfriend. I got them from her laptop. She leaves everything synced to the cloud, and her password is embarrassingly simple. I opened the folder. Started reading. The messages were exactly what you'd expect. Intimate, explicit, dismissive of me. There were references to how James doesn't even notice I'm gone. How he's too busy playing businessman to care. How once I make captain, I won't need him anymore. One message stopped me cold. Family Day is this weekend. I'm going to end it then. Make it public. Make it humiliating. He deserves to know what deadweight feels like. She planned it, I said aloud. The whole thing was planned. Every detail. She told her friends ahead of time. Made sure everyone knew to call you deadweight. Coordinated the envelope delivery. All of it. Jesus Christ. Yeah. David stood up. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to give you these messages. I'm going to testify, if you need me to, about what she told me. And I'm going to do my best to make sure the truth comes out. Your parents will hate you for this. Probably. But I can live with that better than I can live with watching this happen and doing nothing. He moved toward the door, paused. One more thing. The heart attack? Dad didn't have it because of you. He had it because he's been under investigation by the SEC for fraud. Something about falsified financial statements to secure the development loans. The stress of that, combined with your withdrawal, combined with everything else, that's what did it. Not you. How do you know this? I have access to his office. I saw the letters from the SEC attorneys. He's probably going to lose everything anyway, even if your investment had stayed. Does Sarah know? I don't think so. Dad's been keeping it quiet, but it's going to come out soon. He opened the door. Take care of yourself, James. And don't let her win. After he left, I sat with the folder for a long time. Read through the messages again. Felt the weight of premeditated cruelty. Then I called Marcus. We need to meet, I said. I have new evidence. The deposition was held in a conference room that smelled like stress and air conditioning. Sarah sat across from me, her attorney beside her, a court reporter in the corner capturing every word. Marcus had prepared me carefully. Stay calm, he'd said. Answer truthfully but briefly. Don't volunteer information. Don't get emotional. Easy advice. Hard execution. Sarah's attorney started with softballs. Background information, timeline of our relationship, basic facts. Then she got to the point. Mr. Chun, isn't it true that you withdrew your investment in Mr. Thomas Chin's project out of revenge? No. No? You expect us to believe that the timing, immediately after receiving divorce papers, was coincidental. I withdrew the investment because I no longer wanted to be financially entangled with my ex-wife's family. That's not revenge. That's self-preservation. But you knew it would harm Mr. Thomas Chin's business? I knew it was my money, invested under a contract that allowed withdrawal. You knew it would devastate him? I knew it would inconvenience him. I didn't know he was under investigation by the SEC for fraud. If I had, I would have withdrawn sooner. Sarah's eyes widened. Her attorney's face went carefully blank. I'm sorry, did you say fraud? Yes. The SEC is investigating Thomas Chun for falsifying financial statements to secure loans for the Harborview project. You didn't know? I'm surprised. It seems like relevant information for this proceeding. Marcus had warned me this would be a bombshell. He was right. The room went very quiet. Do you have evidence of this investigation? I have the SEC letters that were sent to Mr. Chin's office. I assume you'll want copies. My attorney can provide them. Sarah was staring at me now. Not with anger, with fear. She was realizing how much she didn't know, how much had been hidden from her. Good. Her attorney regrouped. Let's move on. Mr. Chun, are you aware that Ms. Sarah Chun has alleged you were emotionally abusive during your marriage? I'm aware she's made that claim. It's false. She says you were controlling, that you monitored her movements, that you became irrationally angry when she spent time with her military colleagues. I was supportive of her career. I managed our household so she could focus on her service. And I never monitored anything. She had complete freedom. Then why did you react so violently to her request for a divorce? I didn't react violently. I withdrew my investment and my financial support. That's not violence. That's a business decision. A business decision that devastated her family. A business decision that protected my assets from further entanglement with people who had made it clear they had no respect for me. You're saying Ms. Chun didn't respect you? I'm saying she called me deadweight in front of her colleagues, handed me divorce papers at a public event, and had been having an affair for a year while taking my financial support. So no, I don't think she respected me. Silence. You're alleging adultery? I'm not alleging. I'm stating. Ms. Chun has been involved with a Captain Matthew Torres for approximately 14 months. I have text messages documenting the affair, including messages where she discussed how she was staying with me for financial stability until she could establish her military career. Sarah's face had gone white. That's not. How did you? Sarah, don't say anything. Her attorney's voice was sharp. But he can't. I said don't say anything. Marcus leaned back in his chair, a small smile playing at his lips. This was going even better than we'd hoped. I think we need a recess, Sarah's attorney said. I think that's a good idea, Marcus agreed. We broke for 15 minutes. I could hear Sarah and her attorney arguing in hushed tones in the hallway. When we reconvened, Sarah's attorney looked like someone who'd just realized they were playing poker against someone with 4 aces. Mr. Chun, let's talk about these alleged text messages. There's nothing alleged about them. They exist. They're authenticated. They show a clear pattern of infidelity and premeditation. Premeditation? Ms. Chin planned the public humiliation at the Military Family Day event. She coordinated with her colleagues to call me deadweight. She intentionally chose a public venue to serve me with divorce papers as part of what she described in her messages as making me feel what deadweight feels like. That's taken out of context. I'm happy to provide the full context. Would you like me to read the messages aloud? Sarah's attorney looked at her client. Sarah was staring at the table, her jaw tight. No, the attorney said quietly. That won't be necessary. 3 days after the deposition, Sarah's attorney called Marcus to discuss settlement. They want to settle? I asked, surprised despite myself. They're desperate to settle, Marcus corrected. The adultery evidence, the premeditated humiliation, the SEC investigation of her father, it's all created a perfect storm. If this goes to trial, Sarah's military career is over. Adultery is still a violation of the UCMF, and the premeditation shows conduct unbecoming an officer. The military takes this seriously. What are they offering? Clean break. No spousal support either direction. You keep your separate property. She keeps hers. Marital assets split 50-50, but given how little you have in joint accounts, it's basically nothing. You walk away free and clear. That's generous. That's desperate. They know they're fucked, James. Sarah's career, Thomas's business, all of it, it's falling apart. They want to salvage what they can. What about the lawsuit from Thomas? That's the other thing. Thomas is dropping it. All of it. No admission of wrongdoing from either side. Everyone just walks away. I sat with that information for a moment. It was what I'd wanted. Freedom, a clean break, the ability to move on with my life. So why did it feel hollow? Do I have to see her? I asked. To sign the papers? No. We can do it separately. You never have to see any of them again if you don't want to. I don't want to. Then you won't. The final hearing was scheduled for July 15th, 3 months almost to the day after the Military Family Day that had destroyed my marriage. I sat in the same courthouse where we'd fought over the asset freeze, but this time in a different courtroom. Smaller, quieter. The kind of room designed for endings. Sarah was there with her attorney. She'd lost weight, I noticed. Looked drawn, tired. The confident second lieutenant from that spring day was gone, replaced by someone who looked significantly less certain of her place in the world. Good. The judge, a different one this time, an older woman with kind eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor, reviewed the settlement agreement. This is a stipulated divorce, she said, meaning both parties have agreed to the terms. Is that correct? Yes, Your Honor, Sarah's attorney said. Yes, Your Honor, Marcus echoed. Ms. Chun, do you understand that you're waiving any claim to spousal support? I do, Your Honor. Sarah's voice was quiet but steady. Mr. Chun, do you understand you're waiving the same? I do, Your Honor. And you're both satisfied with the division of assets as outlined in this agreement? Yes, Your Honor, we said in unison. The judge signed the paperwork. Just like that. A few signatures, a few questions, and 3 years of marriage were dissolved. The court grants the petition for dissolution of marriage, the judge said. You are both free to go. We stood. Sarah's attorney gathered her papers quickly, clearly eager to leave. Sarah herself paused, looked at me for the first time since the deposition. James. Don't, I said quietly. I just want to say. There's nothing to say. It's done. She looked like she wanted to argue. Then seemed to think better of it. Not at once. Left with her attorney. Marcus and I walked out into summer sunshine. How do you feel? He asked. I don't know yet. Ask me in a year. Fair enough. Want to grab lunch? Celebrate. I think I need to be alone for a bit. I get that. Call me if you need anything. I drove back to my apartment, my permanent apartment now. I'd signed a year lease, and sat on my balcony, looking out at the city. Seattle in July is beautiful in a way that's almost aggressive. Everything is green and alive and vibrant. It mocks your sadness with its insistence on growth. My phone buzzed. A text from David. Heard the divorce was finalized. Hope you're doing okay. For what it's worth, I think you handled this with more grace than any of us deserved. I typed back, thanks. How's your family? Falling apart. Dad's definitely getting charged by the SEC. Mom's filing for divorce. Sarah got a letter of reprimand from her commanding officer. Nothing career-ending, but it's on her record. Everyone's scrambling to save themselves. It's ugly. I'm sorry. Don't be. We earned it. Take care of yourself, James. I set the phone down. Thought about karma, consequences, the way actions ripple outward in ways we can't always predict. Thomas Chin was facing fraud charges. His business was ruined. His marriage was ending. Sarah had a permanent mark on her military record. Her affair was known. Her reputation was damaged. Michelle was getting divorced and watching her family implode. And me? I was free. Legally, financially, emotionally free. I should have felt triumphant, vindicated, satisfied. Instead, I felt tired. August arrived with the kind of heat that makes Seattle natives complain about air conditioning being sold out everywhere. I'd settled into my new life with a routine that felt both familiar and strange. Work, gym, occasional dinners with friends, long walks around the city. The life of a single man in his mid-30s, trying to figure out who he was outside of a failed marriage. Marcus called one afternoon while I was reviewing a client's portfolio. Got some news, he said. Thought you'd want to hear. Good news or bad news? Depends on your perspective. Thomas Chin pleaded guilty to securities fraud. He's going to do 18 months in federal prison, pay a substantial fine, and is barred from serving as an officer or director of any public company. Jesus. Yeah, the SEC built an airtight case. Apparently, he'd been falsifying financial statements for years, not just for the Harborview project. It was a whole pattern of behavior. What about the investors? Most of them are suing in civil court. They'll probably get something back, but not much. The money's gone, James. He spent it maintaining his lifestyle, paying off other debts, keeping up appearances. Classic fraud pattern. I thought about Thomas at all those family dinners, talking about his success, his vision, his legacy. All of it built on lies. And Sarah? Still in the army. Still at her post. Keeping her head down, from what I hear. The affair fallout was contained. Torres got transferred to another unit. Sarah got her reprimand. And as far as the army's concerned, it's over. So she's fine. Professionally, she'll survive. Her career trajectory is probably limited now. That reprimand will follow her, but she'll make it to retirement if she wants. Personally, he paused. I hear she's struggling. Isolated. Most of her friends from the ceremony have distanced themselves. Nobody wants to be associated with that kind of drama. Good, I thought. Then felt immediately guilty for thinking it. You still there? Marcus asked. Yeah, just processing. Want my advice? Stop processing. Stop keeping track of what's happening to them. It's over, James. You won. Not in a vindictive way, but in a you survived and you're moving forward way. Let the rest go. You're probably right. I'm definitely right. It's what you pay me for. Now stop obsessing and go live your life. I tried. I really did try to move on, to stop thinking about Sarah and her family, to focus on building something new. But trauma doesn't work that way. You don't just decide to be over it, and then you're magically healed. It lingers. It colors everything. I'd be in the middle of a client meeting and suddenly remember the sound of laughter following me across that field. I'd be at the gym and catch a glimpse of someone in military PT gear and feel my chest tighten. I'd be on a date, trying, at least, to get back out there. And realize halfway through dinner that I was analyzing every word, every gesture, looking for signs of contempt or dismissal. You seem distant, one woman told me after our third date. Like you're not really here. She was right. I wasn't really there. Part of me was still standing on that field, holding that envelope, trying to understand how love could transform so completely into calculated cruelty. I started seeing a therapist, Dr. Patricia Morrison, recommended by a friend. She specialized in trauma, PTSD, the lingering effects of emotional abuse. You don't have to have been in a war to have trauma, she told me in our first session. Betrayal is trauma. Public humiliation is trauma. Having your reality systematically invalidated by someone you trusted, that's trauma. I feel stupid, I admitted. Like I should be over it by now. It's been months. Healing isn't linear. And you're not stupid. You're hurt. There's a difference. We did EMDR therapy, cognitive behavioral therapy, spent hours unpacking not just what Sarah had done, but why I'd stayed so long, why I'd made myself so small, why I believed that being supportive meant being invisible. You learned early that your worth was tied to being useful, Dr. Morrison said. That love was conditional on your ability to meet others' needs while suppressing your own. Where did that come from? I thought about my childhood. My father, brilliant but distant, perpetually disappointed that I'd chosen finance over academia. My mother, loving but overworked, who needed me to be the easy child, the one who didn't cause problems. The implicit message that had followed me through life. Be useful, be accommodating, don't take up too much space. That makes sense, I said slowly. But how do I unlearn it? Carefully, gradually, by making different choices. By noticing when you're shrinking yourself and actively choosing not to. By building a life where your worth isn't dependent on someone else's approval. It sounded simple. It was anything but. October, 6 months after the ceremony. I was having coffee with an old college friend, Daniel, catching up on life. So you're really doing okay? He asked, studying me with the directness of someone who'd known me long enough to see through bullshit. I'm getting there, I said honestly. Some days are better than others. I heard what happened. With Sarah. With everything. It's been a mess. She was always kind of cold, he said carefully. Even back when you first started dating. We all thought it, but nobody wanted to say anything. Why not? Because you seemed happy. And who were we to judge? But looking back, he trailed off. She never seemed to see you, James. She saw what you could do for her, but not you. That's a depressing realization to come to after 3 years of marriage. Better than 30 years. Fair point. We talked for another hour, catching up on his life, his wife, his kids. Normal things. The kind of conversation that reminded me there was a world beyond my divorce, beyond my trauma, beyond the endless loop of processing and healing. As I was leaving, Daniel said something that stuck with me. You know what the best revenge is? Living well. No. The best revenge is becoming someone you're proud of. Someone who wouldn't tolerate what you tolerated. Someone who knows their worth. That's harder than it sounds. Most worthwhile things are. November, 7 months. I was promoted at work, managing partner of my firm, responsible for a portfolio worth over $300 million. It was a recognition I'd earned through years of solid performance, but it felt particularly meaningful now. Proof that I was more than Sarah's deadweight husband. Proof that I'd always been more than that. My mother threw a small dinner party to celebrate. Just family and a few close friends. It was warm and genuine and exactly what I needed. People who saw me, valued me, celebrated me for who I was rather than what I could provide. I'm proud of you, my mother said, pulling me aside after dinner. Not just for the promotion. For everything. For standing up for yourself. For doing the hard work of healing. For not letting bitterness consume you. Some days I feel pretty bitter, I admitted. That's allowed. But you're not letting it define you. That's the difference. December. 8 months. Holiday season, which I'd been dreading. Our first Christmas married. Sarah and I had hosted her entire family. I'd cooked for 3 days straight, decorated, wrapped gifts, played the perfect host. They'd barely thanked me. This year, I went skiing in Colorado with a group of friends. We stayed in a cabin, drank too much, told terrible jokes, and didn't talk about anything serious. It was exactly what I needed. On Christmas Eve, sitting by the fire while everyone else was asleep, I checked my phone out of habit. There was a message from an unknown number. James, it's Sarah. I know I'm probably the last person you want to hear from. I just wanted to say I'm sorry. For all of it. You deserve better. I hope you're doing well. Merry Christmas. I stared at the message for a long time. Felt the old anger rise up, then recede, then rise again. Felt the urge to respond with something cutting, something that would hurt her the way she'd hurt me. Instead, I deleted the message, blocked the number, and went to bed. January. 9 months. A new year. I'd made it through all the firsts. First birthday after divorce. First holidays. First anniversary of when we'd met. Each one had been hard in its own way, but I'd survived them. Dr. Morrison and I were talking about dating. Are you ready? She asked. I don't know. How do you know when you're ready? You don't really. But there are signs. Do you find yourself interested in other people? Can you imagine building something new? Or are you still primarily focused on what you lost? I thought about it. I think I'm more focused on what I gained. which is myself, I guess. The version of me that didn't get lost trying to be what someone else needed. That's significant growth, James. I'm impressed. So, I should start dating? I think you should do whatever feels right. There's no timeline, no checklist. Just pay attention to how you feel. And remember what you've learned about your worth. I joined a dating app. Tentatively. Put up a profile that was honest about who I was, what I was looking for, where I'd been. Expected few responses. Got quite a few. I went on dates. Some good, some bad, most somewhere in between. Learned to recognize red flags earlier. Learned to trust my instincts about people. Learned, slowly, that not everyone was looking to take advantage of me. I met Claire in February. She was a software engineer at Microsoft, divorced herself, had a dry sense of humor that matched mine. We met for coffee, talked for 3 hours, made plans to meet again. On our third date, she asked about my ex-wife. I don't want to pry, she said, but I can tell there's some baggage there. And I'm okay with baggage, we all have it. I just want to know what I'm walking into. So I told her. Not everything, but enough. The broad strokes of what had happened. Wow, she said when I finished. That's really rough. I'm sorry. It was. But I'm doing better now. Can I ask, are you really over it? Because I've dated guys who said they were over their exes, but weren't, and it never ends well. I'm not sure anyone's ever completely over something like that. But I'm not still in love with her, if that's what you're asking. I'm not sitting around hoping she'll come back. I'm just healing and trying to figure out who I am now. That's honest. I appreciate that. We kept seeing each other. Slowly, carefully, both of us aware that we were walking into something with our respective histories in tow. But it worked. She didn't expect me to be perfect or healed or unburdened. She just expected me to be honest. I could do that. March. 10 months. I got a letter in the mail. Hand-addressed, nice stationery. A Seattle postmark. I almost threw it away without opening it. But curiosity won. Inside was a letter from Michelle Chun, Sarah's mother. Dear James, I know this letter is overdue. I should have reached out months ago, but I didn't know what to say. I still don't, really, but I need to try. I'm sorry. I'm so deeply sorry for how we treated you, for how we let Sarah treat you, for how we failed to see what was happening until it was too late. You were a good son-in-law. You were kind and generous and supportive. You didn't deserve what happened at that ceremony. You didn't deserve any of it. I know this doesn't change anything. I know apologies don't undo harm. But I needed you to hear it from me. You were never dead weight. You were never less than. You were always enough. I hope you're doing well. I hope you found peace. With regret. Michelle. I read the letter twice. Then a third time. Felt nothing. Or not nothing, exactly. Acknowledgement of pain, maybe. Validation that what had happened was real, was wrong, was worth apologizing for. But it didn't change anything. Couldn't change anything. I filed the letter away. Didn't respond. Maybe someday I would. But not today. April. 11 months. A full year, almost, since the ceremony that had destroyed my marriage and rebuilt my life. I was at the gym, my usual routine, when I saw her. Sarah. She looked different. Harder somehow. Leaner. She was in civilian workout clothes, had earbuds in, was focused on her exercises. She hadn't seen me. I could leave. Should leave, probably. There was no reason to interact. Nothing good that could come from it. But something made me walk over. Sarah. She turned, startled, pulled out one earbud. Recognition flickered across her face, followed by something else. Fear? Guilt? I couldn't tell. James. Hi. Hi. Awkward silence. The gym noise filled the space between us. Weights clanking, treadmills humming, people breathing hard. How are you? She finally asked. I'm good. You? I'm managing. Another silence. She looked like she wanted to say something, couldn't quite find the words. I sent you a message, she finally said. At Christmas. You didn't respond. I know. I deleted it. Oh, Sarah, I need to ask you something. And I need you to be honest. Okay. Did you ever actually love me? Or was I just convenient? She flinched. Looked away. That's not fair. Maybe not. But I'm asking anyway. A long pause. When she finally spoke, her voice was quiet. I thought I did. At first. But somewhere along the way, she trailed off. You were so supportive. So accommodating. So willing to just shrink yourself to fit into my life. And I started to resent it. Started to see it as weakness instead of strength. So you decided to humiliate me publicly? I thought you needed to wake up. To realize you were wasting your life on someone who couldn't give you what you needed. She finally looked at me. I was cruel about it. I know that. I was angry at you for being what I couldn't. Selfless, patient, kind. And I took it out on you in the worst possible way. You could have just asked for a divorce. Privately. Respectfully. I could have. I should have. But I wanted to hurt you. I wanted you to feel as trapped and suffocated as I felt. Why? Because it was easier to make you the villain than to admit I was the problem. Easier to paint you as deadweight than to acknowledge that I was the one who couldn't handle having a partner who actually loved me. I stood there processing. This was the most honest Sarah had been with me in years. Maybe ever. Thank you, I finally said, for telling me the truth. Does it help? A little. It confirms what I already knew, which is that I wasn't crazy. That what happened was real and wrong and not my fault. It wasn't your fault, she said quietly. None of it was your fault. I know that now. Are you happy? I thought about Claire. About my promotion. About Dr. Morrison's office where I did the hard work of healing. About my apartment that was mine, my life that was mine, my worth that was mine. I'm getting there, I said. Good. You deserve to be happy, James. You always did. So do you, Sarah. I hope you figure out how to get there. I walked away then. Back to my exercises, back to my routine, back to my life. And I realized, as I was lifting weights and breathing hard and existing in my body in my space, that I meant it. I did hope she found happiness. Not because I loved her anymore, I didn't. Not because I forgave her completely, I wasn't sure I did. But because holding on to anger was exhausting, and I was tired of being exhausted. May. 1 year exactly since the ceremony. I woke up in my apartment, the morning light filtering through curtains I'd chosen, in a bed I'd bought, in a life I'd built from the wreckage of everything that came before. Claire was there. We'd been officially together for 3 months, taking things slow, figuring out what we wanted. She rolled over, smiled at me. Morning. What's the significance of today? It's been a year, I said. Since my divorce. Oh, how are you feeling about that? Honestly, grateful. Yeah. That ceremony, that envelope, all of it. It set me free. Not in the way Sarah intended, but free nonetheless. Free from trying to be enough for someone who would never see me as enough. Free from shrinking myself. Free from believing my worth was contingent on someone else's approval. That's beautiful, Claire said. And also very therapy speak. I laughed. Fair. Dr. Morrison would be proud. We got up, made coffee, planned our day. Normal things. Beautiful in their normality. Later, I met Marcus for lunch. He ordered champagne. What are we celebrating? I asked. You. 1 year post-divorce. Still standing. Still sane. Still successful. That's worth celebrating. It doesn't feel like much of an achievement. Are you kidding? Do you have any idea how many people get destroyed by what you went through? Who let the bitterness consume them? Who can't move forward? Who stay stuck in their anger forever? Some days I'm still pretty angry. Some days are allowed. But you're building something new. You're in a relationship with someone who respects you. You're killing it at work. You're in therapy doing the hard work. That's not nothing, James. That's everything. We clinked glasses. To freedom, Marcus said. To freedom. That evening, I did something I'd been avoiding for a year. I drove back to the base where the ceremony had been held. I didn't go onto the base itself, didn't have access anymore, didn't need it. But I parked in the visitor lot and walked to where I could see the field where it had all happened. It looked smaller than I remembered. Just a field. Grass, trees, a flagpole. Normal. Unremarkable. No echo of the humiliation, the laughter, the envelope. Just space. I stood there for a while, watching the wind move through the trees, feeling the late spring warmth on my face. And I realized something. The weight was gone. Not completely. Trauma doesn't disappear, damage doesn't vanish, scars don't fade entirely. But the crushing, suffocating weight of trying to be someone I wasn't, of believing I was dead weight, of carrying the burden of someone else's cruelty, that was gone. I was light. Free. Mine. I took out my phone, pulled up a blank note, wrote. Things I know now. 1. My worth is not determined by how useful I am to others. 2. Kindness is not weakness. Accommodation is not the same as erasure. 3. Love should make you bigger, not smaller. 4. It's okay to walk away from people who don't see you. 5. Healing is not linear, but it is possible. 6. The best revenge is becoming someone you're proud of. 7. I am enough. I have always been enough. I saved the note, titled it Lessons from the Wreckage. Then I got back in my car and drove home. To my apartment, my life, my future. 2 years later, I would run into David at a coffee shop. We'd catch up, exchange the updates you exchange when enough time has passed to make tragedy feel distant. Thomas had served his sentence, was out on probation, working as a consultant. Diminished, but surviving. Michelle had remarried. Someone kind, David said. Someone who treated her well. Sarah had left the military. Honorably discharged after her initial contract. Now working in corporate security. She'd moved to Virginia, was dating someone, seemed to be doing okay. And you? David asked. How's life? Good, I said. And meant it. Really good. I'm engaged. To that software engineer you told me about? Claire, yeah? We're getting married in October. Congratulations, man. You deserve it. Thanks. How about you? Finishing my PhD. Got a job lined up at a green energy startup in Portland. Starting fresh, you know. I know exactly. On my wedding day, standing at the altar watching Claire walk toward me, I thought about that envelope. The weight of it. The way it had felt like lead in my hands. Like it contained the collected mass of every assumption I'd ever made about my life. But really, it had contained freedom, release, permission to stop pretending, stop shrinking, stop accepting less than I deserved. Sarah had meant it as an ending, a humiliation, a final dismissal. Instead, she'd given me a beginning. Claire reached the altar, smiled at me, mouthed, I love you. I smiled back. I love you too. And I did. Not the complicated, conditional, withholding love I'd known with Sarah, but something clearer, simpler, more honest. The kind of love that makes you bigger, not smaller. The kind of love that sees you. The officiant began speaking. I listened, present and engaged, as he talked about partnership and commitment and building a life together. But part of my mind was elsewhere. Thinking about that field, that envelope, that moment when everything shattered, and being grateful for it. Because sometimes, the worst thing that happens to you is actually the best thing. Sometimes, you have to be broken to learn how to build yourself back stronger. Sometimes, the weight you're carrying isn't yours at all. It's something someone else loaded onto you, and you carried it because you thought that's what love was. And sometimes, the greatest gift someone can give you is permission to put it down, even if they didn't mean it as a gift, even if they meant it as a weapon, even if they never understood that in trying to destroy you, they set you free. I'm sitting in my home office. Claire and I bought a house in the suburbs, have a dog named Atlas, are talking about kids, reviewing a client portfolio when my phone rings. Unknown number. I almost don't answer, but something makes me pick up. Hello, James. It's Sarah. I haven't heard her voice in over a year. It sounds different, softer, uncertain. Sarah, hi. I'm sorry to call. I know we haven't talked in a long time. I need to tell you something, and I wanted to tell you directly. Okay. I'm in therapy. Have been for about a year. Real therapy, not just the mandatory counseling after the reprimand. And I've been doing a lot of work on everything that happened. On who I was, who I am, who I want to be. That's good. I'm glad. My therapist suggested I reach out to people I've hurt, to make amends, if they're willing to hear it. And James, you're at the top of that list. I waited, gave her space to continue. What I did to you is unconscionable. The public humiliation, the premeditation, the affair, all of it. I told myself at the time that you deserved it, that you were weak, that I was doing you a favor by forcing you to wake up. But the truth is, I was cruel because I was broken. I couldn't handle being loved by someone good, so I destroyed it. Destroyed you. Or tried to. You didn't destroy me. No. And that's remarkable, honestly. Most people wouldn't have survived what I put you through with as much grace as you showed. I don't know about grace. I pulled $20 million from your father's project. That wasn't exactly graceful. That was self-preservation. And honestly, you did us a favor. Dad's fraud would have come out eventually. You just accelerated the timeline. Probably saved some investors from losing even more money. How is he? Sober now? Goes to meetings. Trying to make amends himself. He asked me to tell you he's sorry, but he doesn't think he has the right to contact you directly. He doesn't. But I appreciate the message. Silence for a moment. Then, James, I'm not asking for forgiveness. I don't deserve it. I just wanted you to know that I see now what I couldn't see then. You were never deadweight. You were never weak. You were strong enough to love someone who couldn't love you back, and wise enough to walk away when I made it impossible to stay. That's more strength than I've ever had. I felt something shift in my chest. Not forgiveness, not exactly, but something close. Acceptance, maybe. Acknowledgement. Thank you for saying that, Sarah. It means something. Are you happy? I heard you got married. I am. Very happy. Good. You deserve that. You always did. A pause. I should let you go. I needed you to hear this. From me. In my voice. So you knew it was real. I appreciate it. Take care of yourself, James. You too, Sarah. I hung up. Sat with the call for a few minutes. Claire appeared in the doorway. Everything okay? Yeah. That was Sarah. Your ex-wife, Sarah? The very same. She's in therapy. Called to apologize. How do you feel about that? Honestly, I feel complete. Like something that needed to be said was finally said, and now we can both really move on. Did you forgive her? I thought about it. I don't think forgiveness works the way people think it does. It's not this single moment where you decide to let everything go. It's more like releasing your grip on the anger, bit by bit, until one day you realize you're not holding on to it anymore. That's very wise. I've had good therapy. She laughed, came over, put her arms around me. I love you. I love you too. That night, I couldn't sleep. Too many thoughts circling. So I got up, went to my office, pulled out my journal. Dr. Morrison had me keep one as part of therapy, and I kept it up even after we transitioned to less frequent sessions. I wrote, May 15th, 3 years since the ceremony. Sarah called today, apologized. Really apologized, not the defensive kind where you can tell they still think they were partly right. She took ownership, said I deserved better. I realized something while we were talking. I don't hate her anymore. I don't love her either. I feel neutral, like she's someone I used to know, someone who was part of my story but isn't part of my present. That's healing, I think. Not forgetting what happened, not pretending it didn't hurt, but releasing the active emotional charge around it. I'm grateful for where I am now. For Claire, for our home, for the life we're building, for the version of myself I've become. Someone who knows his worth, who won't shrink himself, who understands that love should be expansive, not restrictive. I'm grateful even for the pain, because it taught me what I would and wouldn't accept. It showed me who I am when everything is stripped away. I'm grateful for the envelope, for the cruelty that set me free. I'm grateful for the weight I no longer carry. I'm grateful to be standing here, whole and alive and mine. I closed the journal, went back to bed. Claire was asleep, breathing softly, her hand reaching out across the space where I'd been. I took her hand, held it, and I slept, dreamlessly, finally, free.